I'm Sam Rose, and you're tuning in to Commerce is Chaos, the podcast for consumer brand founders who know that building a business is messier than the highlight reel shows. Your supplier just missed their deadline, your top product is out of stock, and your competitor somehow launched the same thing at half the price. Sound familiar? Every week, we dive into the real problems that keep founders up at night, from inventory disasters to supply chain nightmares, because surviving the chaos is what separates brands that fail from brands that scale. Helen, thank you so much for joining. I'm excited for this conversation. And just in the green room, we were chatting about working with our husbands, which is a hot topic. So let's start there for a second. I think we both think we like it, right?
I love it. For me, I'm like, it's like a trust thing too. And there's nobody else I would trust to be as honest with me and also just like do something like this with. I
Yeah.
feel like I just want somebody that would kind of like look after me as well in this. And so I'm like, who else would I do it with?
Who else would you do it with? Um, what is what's like a weekly highlight for you two working together? And then maybe like what's the hardest part of every week?
I think the hardest part of every week is probably every day is that the shutting off.
Yeah.
And just like knowing when to stop talking about work and
You do
switching to
that?
something else. It's like literally the most impossible thing. It doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be watching TV, scrolling on something, playing a game. We find something that we're like, oh my God. And we start talking about work. And I'm like, no, no, no. I'm like, no, stop it. And I told him this year, I'm like, after 9 p.m., we are not talking about it. We
Okay.
just don't do it. But it doesn't work. So it's just like, it just keeps coming up and we'll get into a conversation. I'm like, no, no, stop.
Brian's a little bit more that for me. I'm like I'll wake up at early and so I'll be like spinning on all sorts of things. And then he'll wake up and I'm like, I just come right at him. I'm like, did it blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, have you checked
Yep.
Slack yet? And he's like, yeah, well, I
It's so hard.
opened my eyes 30 seconds ago.
Right? And I'm always like trying to stop. And sometimes I'm like, it's all you. He's like, no, it's not. He's like, you bring things up. And then we start talking. And then you're like, hey, stop talking about work. I'm like, it's hard because your mind's always going. And that's just like,
Yeah.
you have that person right there. So you can just get going on ideas and,
Oh.
you know,
When you're not talking about work, what are you guys talking about? You have kids, what are your hobbies?
probably the kids. Like we have three of them. They're 4.5, 8,
Well,
and 10. So if it's not work, it's kids or one of my shows. If he wants to talk about a show he likes, I'm like, oh, kind of boring, not into it, but I'm like, I love watching my shows with him because he just always has commentary, and I'm like, you make it more entertaining. It's kind of boring watching by myself. So
fair.
yeah,
Yeah. You gotta have someone to kick it with.
right?
Okay, let's talk about the business for a second. Roo You is one of the fastest growing kids brands in North America. Super congrats. That's so exciting. You launched the company from your living room in
I
2020.
did.
Was it like February 2020 or like like July 2020?
No, it was. I would say like maybe the fall is when it kind of really started. And our first pre-order was in November, but prior to that, I had a teething shop where I handmade silicone teethers, pacifier clips, things like that. And I kind of did that, like went to markets and whatever. I started that when my first was one. And that spring before, well, the spring that COVID started, everybody was posting mask lanyards and things like that. And I was like, you know what, these are not safe. And I used to work for the school board, so I made some. From there, it was like we sold 6,000 units of those that
Yeah.
summer, and it kind of just like lit that fire under me. And my kids started building forts with my couch that I love. And I was like, no, there's got to be something else. And yeah, at that time, there was only one other brand. It was made by people who like they were college students. So I felt like there was things missing from it that parents would really want. So I was like, let's go for it. Why not?
So you jump from, so you're sort of you're in business making these things and then you kind of use that as a functional stepping stone to like this much bigger idea, right?
Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot from having that, just from like, buying my supplies from somebody in Canada who was bringing it over to finding a supplier and doing that. So I kind of had a little bit of that experience anyways, and was like, I think I could do it.
You're gonna pull this off. What was the experience like, kind of like working inside a supply chain that you basically completely controlled to like doing these I mean, a mask lanyard and a pacifier, like, also so small. And so you're like leveling
Wild.
up on supply chain and also just leveling up on logistics, like shipping these much bigger things.
Um, that was really, really hard. I have no idea, like, I had no idea about shipping, logistics, any of that stuff, or any of the things that it would entail. Like, for me, I was like, "Okay, we'll put up a pre-order, sell a couple, ship them from our basement." But we got up to, like, 2 containers in that first pre-order. I'm like, "What do we do here with this with the shipping?" And it was like, figuring out where it ships from, how 3PLs work, what a 3PL even is. And luckily, my husband used to work for CN Rail, so I would lean on him a lot, and I'd be like,
Right.
"I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's going on." And, like, it was COVID, and it's like, "Your ship is stuck here, and this one's been pulled over here." So it'd be, like, so many delays. I'm like, "Is this normal? Is this what happens? Like, how are brands getting things over here?" And, like, it was, yeah, learning how many things fit into a container and CBMs, and
A lot of
very, very different from me making it by hand, packaging it, and shipping it than having something like that where you actually need a full team to be able to, like, ship it and get it over and all that stuff.
What are like if you were talking to yourself 6 years ago, what would you like, what are the 3 kind of most salient memories or lessons that you've like, "If I had known."
I don't know if it's like I have things that are if I had known. I don't know if we just really lucked out or if it was like the fact that I just don't care about, I guess, not sounding as knowledgeable and just asking questions. I think that is probably the thing that stuck out most to me from building everything. Everywhere we have, like, been and everything we've dealt with, I'm not afraid to ask somebody else about to explain things to me and get understanding of it. And I think that is really, really important to be able to ask those questions so you could learn. But yeah, I think, like, honestly, for anything is just like I have to ask the questions and understand it to a degree where it makes sense to me. And sometimes I'd be like, explain it to me as if I'm a 10-year-old. I'm like,
Right.
don't even talk to me in these, like, acronyms and all these things. I'm like, just tell me if I was a 10-year-old how this works so I can actually, like, wrap my brain around it.
No, and at the end of the day, there's so much of that knowledge is sort of like it's like black boxed or hidden behind like physical paywalls, like people that gatekeep the knowledge
Yeah.
because that's their business model. And at the end of the day, you're right. If you none of it's that complicated, if you just get comfortable feeling a little bit silly and like asking questions sort of innocently, like that the answers are there and you will get there. Um
Yeah.
so much of it reminds me of, when you become a parent, that everyone the joke is like there's no manual. There's also no manual for some of this stuff insofar as, like, we're all just mostly making it up. Like, and then there's, like,
Yeah.
advice, and there's, like but just there's parenting advice too, and like, there are, frameworks that you can use in parenting, but there's no manual for just, like, how to run a good business and how to figure out what the hell CBMs are. Like, you just
Literally
kinda have to, like, go into it, right?
it took me probably until this year to really accept that. I kept going, there has to be certain ways how things are done, and I just need to find the people that are willing to share it with me. And it's like the more I talk to founders, it's like, no, there isn't. You're just figuring it out along the way. You have to figure out what works for your business. Yeah, just be okay feeling silly. Like, a lot of our partners, I will be like, I want to work with you because you're the expert.
Yeah.
You can teach me about this because I'm not going to be able to help you with a lot of this. So
There's some stuff that I think you might not have known ahead of time, but really, in retrospect, looks like a very smart decision, or maybe it was. And I want to tug on the thread of pre-orders for a second because there's such a good way to like de-risk the production run, the go-to-market plan, and the whole bit. So tell me a little bit about your choice to use pre-orders as a tool, and maybe just like a couple lessons you might share with anybody else who's trying to think about how to get started or go to market.
I am not a risky type of gal, so that was one of the main things. Like, I wanted to make sure we could prove it out first before we did anything else, but also, like, you need capital to be able to put in these orders. So for me, it was like, okay, we need to make sure we can prove this out before new set of, like, knowledge you need to learn to be able to even do that. And for me, I always come at anything for the business as what I would want to see. as a consumer, I'm like the world's best shopper. I love everything. I own everything from everybody. If an ad comes up, I'm probably buying from that company. It's the worst. For me, it was like, okay, let's try and do this pre-order, see what we get, what the interest is. And we kind of did that built around a community because who's going to buy a $300 play couch for their kids from random mom who comes out of the blue? And I was like, okay, they need to know me. They need to know my family. And I just spent so much time talking to customers and Facebook groups and things like that and putting ourselves out there and then taking everybody and putting them in our group
Wow.
where we shared more and ran the pre-order really through that group.
Mm.
Uh, I felt like it was like a safe way to do it. The thing that I think I did not think about was the reaction of the people for when they have to wait, especially during a time like COVID where there's so many delays and it's like, okay, well, is this a scam? What's happening? I need my money back. You know, you're getting like, and it's understandable. Wait for like a month for something. I'm like, this is way too long. I'm not patient for this. But yeah, I think like it works because for me, it felt like it was a safe thing to do. But being prepared for all the questions you're going to get and if there's delays and how you're going to kind of get around that is really important to understand.
Yeah. Such a good point, especially during, I feel like during COVID, I mean, commerce is chaos. Like,
It was wild.
wild, like a perfect storm of everybody had a lot of money to spend on the internet. Everyone's really bored. Everyone's stressed and angry. And supply, like global supply chain is just unhinged. And I felt for our business, and we had COVID related parts of our business too. We were selling masks, and I mean, one day I was just like, I don't know what else to do. For like, if we're either all going to lose our jobs or we're going to do something relevant. And then joke was on us because like everyone was cooking sourdough bread. Like,
I
so
never did.
and
I never did
and
that.
like redecorating their homes and like, but you sit on the same old sofa for so long and you're like, F this thing. I'm redecorating. Like, so it's sort of like a perfect moment in so many ways, but people were so anxious and angry about everything. And I felt like the only tool that really worked was just to be really vulnerable and like over communicate. I can't tell you how many mass emails I sent out that started with, I'm so sorry.
Right?
I'm trying.
The amount of like the updates and just like at some point like there was people that are like you're over communicating, maybe like take it back a little bit because maybe they won't react that way. And I was like, you know what, I would want to know what's going on. And at the end of the day I was like, if I tell them what the problem is, they're not gonna maybe feel as angry about it. And then you'll have like you're always gonna have people that are gonna be like, maybe you should have planned better. How do you plan
Thank,
for what's going on in
thank
COVID? Like
you,
literally one of our ships got if they're like, we're docking it because there's COVID on the ship. And I'm like, it's already on the ship. Just keep going. Who cares?
bro.
Like, why are we docking? Like, it's already on there. By the time you get to where you're going, everybody's going to be over the contagious part. But like, you know, or there was like the canal thing and a boat went down in the ocean and somebody posted, is that the Roo You boat? I'm like, oh my God, guys, please. I'm like, do not put any bad juju into the universe here. We have run into every delay imaginable and it was just over communicate. I was like, that's just what I would want and that's what I'm going to do, whether if people like it or not, at least they know what's going on. It's kind of been really big and important part of how we've built the business is just how transparent we are with our customers.
Cards on the table. Your tech stack is held together with duct tape and prayers. If you're a brand founder or COO juggling Shopify, your 3PL portal, 3 different inventory trackers, and yes, that one crucial Google Sheet, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Orders get lost, inventory counts are fiction, and your seamless integrations break every other Tuesday. Endless Commerce changes the game. One platform for everything. DTC, wholesale, marketplaces, the works. AI-powered forecasting, real-time inventory visibility, and integrations that actually integrate. Teams like Great Jones, Food 52, and Pattern Brands already made the switch. Ready to ditch the chaos? Visit endlesscommerce.com, mention Commerce is Chaos when you reach out, and get 3 months free. Because your ops stack should be your competitive advantage, not your biggest headache. Do you feel like that kickstarted, no pun intended, like a good community for you all? I did. I felt like we had gone through hell together. That was like, I'm trying to get
Yeah.
your order and you're waiting for your order. And then we had just such rich customer relationships on the heels of that vulnerability and over communication. And I wonder how much you've used that to kind of like build your, startup community.
So for me, like I was never in any kind of community groups or anything like that ever until COVID started. And I joined, and can I be honest, it is not what I thought it would be. It was pretty savage. It's a
Really?
wild west out there. People do not care what they're saying on the internet. And so I wanted to have something that was for the brand, but for people to connect as well, because at that point it was like everybody just wanted a way to talk to other people and connect and just like have that feeling of still having friends and things like that. So I was like, okay, we can do this with our groups. Yeah, we made like this place where I have one rule. You cannot be mean in our group. It's like one strike, you're out. It's only for fun, positivity. Don't care about anything else going on. I think everybody connected so much over that, but then it's kind of still worked and it's still a place where people can connect because I feel like no matter when it is, people are just looking for others to connect to. And like, even as a founder, I'm always like, what can I go to connect with other founders and like hear from people and do things like that? So yeah, I think COVID was a really good way for us to kind of build that community and connect with them because we had nothing else to do. We just sat there and talked. Like, spent so much time on lives all the time. And I was like, hey, Matt, get on a scale so people can see how much our phone can hold. He's like, stop weighing me on the internet. I'm like, it's okay. He's like, why don't you go do it? I'm like, no, thank you.
Got rules about this.
The kids would go to bed and at nighttime we would go on live. We would go on live and talk to like the other parents and like this is what you could do and here's the fabric and like just kind of chat about random stuff as well. So it was just like a way for us all to connect.
What tools were you using at the time that you're like, "Ugh, I don't need those anymore," or the world has changed? And then what are the latest tools? And like still from the framing of kind of like community engagement and creating community or participating in community. Has it changed much or do you feel like it's still kind of same input?
A lot of people suggest changing what we do and where we're doing it. But I'm like, I don't like messing with something that's not broken unless somebody can really prove to me that it's going to make a big difference. So our group has always been on Facebook. I feel like it's where people go to connect with their friends and families anyway. So they're going to be on there. And I feel like it does what we need. And then Instagram. So like we've literally just that's how we've built our community is through those two places. And Mike, I just don't want to introduce other things into it if it's not gonna make a big change for us. And yeah, I've never been about adding tons and tons of tools unless it's going to make a change because you need to be able to manage those things. And we're a small team. I do not have time to manage any more things, and neither does anybody else. So for me, it has to be like really, really good output for it to be added. So
Yeah.
nothing so far.
I mean, but that's such a great anchor. Like you don't have to over engineer this stuff. It doesn't have to be complicated. It really just needs to be kind of like, I don't know. My two my opinion is it needs to be authentic and consistent. Like, and if it's
Right.
those two things, then everything, every bell and whistle that you could add to it, it's like, okay, well, I'm really just giving myself homework, you know.
Yeah, we tried like a couple of things like in the very beginning. Um, I guess like really because we're new and it's just like, I don't know, random apps or somebody reaches out like, oh, look what we can do for you. And like, oh, cool, let's try it out. And okay, well, we don't have time to actually like do this, use it the way it should be. And it's not doing what we thought it would. So yeah, you can like really fall into that trap as well really easily where the salespeople are really good. And I am yes, that sounds awesome. Let's do it. So yeah, it's just like trying to really see and understand if it's gonna work for you because it might work for somebody else, might be amazing for somebody else, but not for what you're doing. And you have to really know your customer and your business and what works for it because not everything is going to.
Speaking of knowing what works, channel mix is always a really big part of that. Just like knowing where to be selling. You are primarily D2C. Are you fully D2C or you're rolling into
fully
retail.
fully D2C.
Are you gonna do retail?
Um, Considering it, talking about it, gonna see, test it out. I feel like retail is like a whole different ballgame, and yeah, gonna try it out. Matt's all for it. It's like from the beginning, he's like, "Let's do retail." I'm like, but like I like having our own website where we're not giving away margins to somebody
Yeah,
else.
rule of thumb. I don't know if this would work for your category. We always try to optimize for being channel agnostic by just like like making our margins equivalent in every channel. So like the cost of fulfillment for a D2C order was about equivalent to our wholesale margin giveaway. And then we were like, okay, well, we'll actually sell anywhere because like we take home about the same amount of money at the end of the day. I don't know if that was a luxury for our teeny tiny product category or not, but it worked well for us.
It is something that Matt really he had to really show it to me in the numbers to
Yeah.
kind of I was like, "No, it doesn't make sense. We're gonna give it all away." And he's like, "No, no, it doesn't work like that." And yeah, it is like this is one of the things, like part of the like the learning and I just like just talking about it, it was like, it doesn't make sense. I'm like, not for me. And he had to like really be like, okay, look at this. This
Look,
is what you get. This is what you're doing. Okay,
he put the
maybe then.
spreadsheet on
So
a
it's like
scale and then
yeah, and it's, like, just finding the right places to, like, partner with that are gonna work for you as well, right? So it's, like, you don't wanna just go into everywhere, and if it doesn't work and doesn't align with you, like, the beginning, we had quite a lot of, retailers reach out, but it's, like, through Marketplace and doing a lot of that, and, like, we need to get the business, like, really into a place where it makes sense and we know what we're doing before we start doing any of that stuff. So
yeah, retail adds so much complexity to it, and I think a good rule of thumb is like get each channel as an opportunity, but it will make the business more complicated. So like get your house tidy in the first one. Like if do you have D2C on lock or you have pre-orders on lock, then move on to like it's not that you have to do one thing at a time, which I'm the last person to be opposed to doing one thing at a time. But it's more like if you get your house really in order in like category one, then or channel one, then you can move on to category two or channel two without it feeling so chaotic to just be inside that. And, then the 300-page vendor guide isn't like a bad Friday night.
Right? Like some of these contracts, I'm like, holy, it's like a lot of reading and figuring out and all the little fine print, things like that. But like for us, it was like we were pre-order and then we moved into drops and then actually having things in stock. So I feel like it's kind of been like a little progression. I do love to like rush into things, but then I'm also like, okay, well, we need to maybe make sure this part works before we do the next thing. And it's just like plan for it. It's slow it down a little bit because I'm like, I think of something, I'm like, I want to do it right now. So that like I've had to like really learn to kind of sit with my idea and kind of plan the whole thing out as much as I can before going to it. It's really hard because I'm like, I thought of it, I want to do it tomorrow. And it's just like, no, no, no. Step it back.
Yeah,
Just
just
a little bit.
break it down. When you plan like that, how does the planning work happen? I'll give you three like ideas of how like is it in conversations and then with takeaways, or do you prefer to kind of like sit and maybe write a deck or a memo for yourself where you're like, you can kind of think through the risks on paper and but have something like a written artifact? Or is there another way that you kind of engage with your team to put these plans in place to like figure out whether or not an opportunity is going to like make or break you?
I wanted to think of it myself, plan it out. First, I plan it out in my head. Usually in the middle of the night, I'll be like laying there. I'm like, oh, okay, that could work. And I'm just like start typing in notes. And then from there, I'm like, Matt, I have this idea. I'll like tell him usually in the morning, I have this idea. And then he starts like, I'm like, hold on, hold on. Let me write down my thoughts and then we'll bring thoughts together. And so I do it myself, then I talk to Matt about it, and then we'll talk to the team about it. And it's just like, I'm always like, I need you guys to be like super honest about what you think of this idea and what are the things that you think maybe I'm missing or you think that we need to do. And I want to make everything as collaborative as possible. But yeah, it's like kind of like that 3 steps. It's gotta be me first. I have to get it all out because as soon as I hear other people saying things, everything I'm thinking is just out the window.
Yeah.
It's like it just like erases everything I'm thinking. So I have to get it out and then move on to talking about it with everybody else.
Get some on paper.
Yeah, it's yeah, get all out. Most of
Yeah.
the stuff is just like running around in my head and I'm like, "Hey, get it out before you forget about it," because my memory these days is not that great.
I do I walk around with Post-it notes. I'm
I really need to. Everybody's like, How do you not remember? We just talked about this." I'm like, "I don't know. I've had like 400 different conversations so far since I talked to you last, so
Yeah.
I gotta write everything down."
Yeah, I was just chatting with a colleague about this earlier in the week. Like, there's something about, for me personally and for her, like the gesture of like writing something down with a pen on paper that makes it so much stickier for me mentally. Like, I have a hard time. I love Asana as a like team management tool, as a task management tool, as a project management tool. But for things that I'm tasking and more like my stuff rather than managing stuff, if I write it down on a piece of paper, I'm like 10 times as likely to get it
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, it makes our like our business ops manager, it makes her crazy. Like she has built out Monday for us in such a beautiful way. And she loves it so much. She's like, please, can you go in there and add your ideas? Can you go update in there? I'm like, I would love to, but probably not going to happen. I'm like, but I have a notes section on my phone. I can, or like I screenshot some post-its on my desk or something. I'm like, but that's as far as that's going. Cause she's like, I was talking to her about some ideas I had. She's like, oh my God, are these in Monday? I'm like, no, she's like, why not? Because this is where I put my ideas. I'm like, we can put it in there for planning when everybody else gets to it. But yeah, it's hard for me to remember things and get things done when it's like that. But that writing it down and having it in front of you so you can see it all the time, I think is just like, it's just easier to remember because it's right there in front of you. Like if it's in a program, I'm not going to open it.
Yeah. And I think that there's something to be said too for the nature of that work. Like, it's one thing to coordinate several people's worth of effort, even if it is creative effort, to get, jobs to be done. But if you're creatively brainstorming or just like letting ideas percolate, like something about over formalizing it kind of
Yeah.
like takes the wind out of the sails of creativity for me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I need to be a little bit more unstructured and just riffy.
Yeah.
And
Just
like,
like,
and then I'll turn it into a project.
right. You got to get out everything that's in your head whirling around. And it's not going to be in like an order that you can like plan out a project. And when I'm in there trying to do that, it's oh, just like all yeah, like you said, the creativity just kind of goes away because you feel like now you have like to structure what you're thinking instead of just letting it flow free.
We're free flowing. We're letting it fly.
So
Um,
it's I gotta be.
Back to D2C for a moment. What has been like the most surprisingly easy part of that channel for you as you scaled? And then what has been maybe like difficult or a sticking point for scaling direct to consumer?
I think like for me, the easiest part is how we control it, how we represent our brand, how we have our drops. I feel like I'm a little bit of a control freak. I feel like that is why I've always loved being D2C and not getting into anything else is like, I want to have control over it. I want to know what we're doing. And I feel like we built everything kind of on the brand and who we are. And having it on D2C has made it really easy to kind of take our community and bring it over to the website. But the challenging part, I think, is just like figuring out how to get more people to the website or just get more eyes on the brand and like that marketing side. I think, like for me, I could do so like organic all day long. When it comes to like paid media, but no idea. It is the one thing that we've done since starting that I've never really fully understood how it works. It's just, I feel like getting more eyes on you when you're D2C feels a little bit harder to me than if you were on different channels or in retail and things like that.
Do you do any paid media?
We just started like a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Prior to that, no. And it's also been really hard for me to kind of wrap my brain around spending money to get our name out there because so much of our growth was just based on organic community building. And going from that to like having to actually have a budget for marketing, I'm like, this is crazy. And attending some of these like events and stuff where they talk about that, I'm like, whoa, I did not know companies spend so much money on paid. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So kind of getting my brain wrapped around that has been really hard, but I do see why it's needed and how it works is just starting here and then going to that. It was very, very hard for somebody like me because like I just did not have like the experience in any of that or building a brand or having an e-com business. So I didn't know all the things that kind of went into it. And that was a very big thing I did not know that went into it.
Yeah, I think you have such a strong foundation that probably many other brands would be jealous of in that community and in the organic. Like you can add on top of that, but the thing that you've done is actually like the really hard thing, and the rest is just sort of like, you know, dollars in, dollars out. And yes, there are mechanics to it, and yes, it could be done poorly and it can be done very, very well. Uh but ultimately it's a little bit more science than art. Whereas community
Yeah.
building like is very difficult to replicate if you're not authentic and consistent.
Yeah, I can't do like the sciencey part. Maybe that's the thing. I was never good at science or math, and I feel like that's kind of what all that is. And the way I view it is like if I see like an example of an email or an ad or something, like would I buy based on that? And that's always my feedback. And I'm like, might not be the feedback you guys want. I'm okay with you guys doing what you think is best because I don't know how to do that stuff. And I like to very much depend on like if we have any partners, I'm like, you're the expert. And I want to hear what you think and what you think we should do. But I'm always going to give you my view from like a consumer side. It's worked for us so far. So I still very much lean on that when it comes to that. So we'll
I,
see. We'll see.
Similar to how you've approached retail with, you know, with some skepticism. You're like if this is really working for us and it's like the highest margin and like highest traction channel for us, like yes, we can start to shift our focus and be a little bit more diluted. But like if it's working really well in one channel, I think you're proof positive that like you can actually just be in one channel growing in one way, which is organically, and still build like a really successful business with that amount of focus.
Yeah. Yeah, I think like that. I think the last few years, what like I've seen most of is just having more of a community around the brand and like knowing who's behind the brands. And as a shopper myself, I love knowing that and who they are because once I get to know somebody, I'm like, hey, I want to support them. And like,
Yeah.
you know, I like become a fan. And I think that helps so much because you just have that connection. Because I always say, like, there's so many different companies making the same thing. And you know what, some it's gonna have better quality than another, but then there's gonna be lots that are the same quality. So what's gonna make you stand out? And I feel like that's who you are and what you can like build around really. There's lots that show the founder a lot and they're part of it, but they don't have the community. It still works because you know who you're buying from. But I think it can also be a double-edged sword in a way, because if you're like super opinionated person or, you know, it just like are you gonna go out there and like start talking about your beliefs or I don't know, just like random things and then it can kind of like get mixed up a little bit that you don't want it to. But for me, I'm always like, who would I connect with? And I just like, I'm not a very dramatic person. So I'm just like, I wanted to everything to be fun. And I want like our brand to be fun and people to know who I am and what I like. But yeah.
On that note of kind of category competition and it getting crowded, I mean, you kind of proved this format out in the market and particularly in Canada. And now there is like there's a lot of people coming coming for this space. How have you like protected your market position, and what do you feel, in addition to community, are like the biggest advantages that you've had? Are they operational? Are they strategic? Are they brand focused? Is it really that, you know, back to the community thing? Where do you feel like you've been able to defend your turf really nicely?
I think there's multiple different things. The community is huge. Like when you shop with us, you're not just getting a product. You are truly getting a community you can be part of if you want to. And it's there for you. It could be a community, could just be a place you get inspiration for what you're doing. But when we started, like I said, there was only one company and there was only a play couch. Really, like right after our very first pre-order, the next day I woke up and I'm like, okay, why is there no other shapes? Why is there nothing else? Because they're essentially just really large building blocks. I don't know if it was like the educator side of me or like the parent side or both of it, but I was like, okay, there needs to be more pieces for my kids to be able to build more and do more things. And so I think one thing that really has made us stand out is the fact that we built a system. We didn't just build a play couch and we're like, here's play couch, go do whatever. It's like we built a system around it. All the pieces work together. Like when I'm designing something, I make sure like sizing works and how modular they could be because they're really large furniture pieces. Are you going to buy your kids all these large furniture pieces you can't do anything else with? It's going to take up a lot of space. So I always want to make sure it can work in different ways. So like when you're putting it away, you can set it up as like a little mini living room and like the wedges can turn to a side table and there's an ottoman for the rocker. And this system, I think, has been one of the things that's really made us stand out. And just gonna say, we are the innovators of the category. So
Just saying.
that's a, this there's gonna be other people that are gonna make it, and there has been, and I don't care about that. I've always been somebody that, has been I always champion everybody else. And when we started, there was a Canadian company that started, I think a few months after us, and we were not made in Canada. I've never hit that. I don't care about that. And when people would ask about that, I'd be like, there's this other really great brand. They are made in Canada. Here's who they are. But that's not always what you get back in the community and between like, I guess, like competition. Like I don't see competition in a way where it's like me against you. I see it more as like, let's just be friends and share and we're doing the same thing. So I think like with that, that's also helped because I'm not one to shy away from being like, this is also a great brand and you could go over here. But for me, I think it's like the community and the system that we've built. And we're always like trying to innovate and bring out new things for our customers and new ways to build onto it and new ways to use it. Like, we made covers so you could take it outside. Or the licensing, I think, was also a really, really big thing for us. And I saw that as an opportunity to build trust for the brand. Like we were just so new and working with these large brands, like that's gonna build trust, gives us a whole new like customers and things like that. So for me, I really approach that as like, how do we change how licensing is? Because kids furniture, like the license stuff is really in your face, like super in your face. And it was never something that I wanted to have in our house. And I'm a very neutral kind of girl. So I was like, I want to take licensing and make it fit into houses. So the kid loves it, but the parents love it too. I don't want it to be just like slap that logo on, put those primary colors in there, whatever it is, and just toss it into your house.
Speaking of, and kind of tugging on a thread that you mentioned earlier, of wanting to be in control of the brand and its expression and the whole thing, does that create tension in the licensing conversation or in how you kind of approach those relationships? Or has it felt a little bit more natural than that?
It can to a degree. When we started, I was like very stars in my eyes. Oh my God, they want to work with us. I'm going to do whatever they want. And it took like a few for me to kind of be like, okay, I need to be like a lot more direct with them about what works and what doesn't. And like building that confidence to be able to do that with some of our partners because I'm like, oh, I don't want to like, be rude here. But it can be like there has been times where it's been like they want something very specific and like that is not going to work. And they really, really push for it. And like, you know what? Fine. But let's do two different things where one way is like my way and one way is your way. And then we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
And so like now with that experience, I can kind of like explain that more when we're talking to partners. And it's one of the things I bring up right from the start. It's just like, listen, like we're not looking to do what you've always done. And I'm looking to do something different than what is out there for licensing. And I think that that's also really helped with like make us stand out is because we're not doing the same thing and we're just trying to like kind of change how that is. And I think that's also one of the reasons that so many of our partners have decided to work with us is that we're giving them something different that they don't have.
I love that. Uh, you mentioned design, my favorite topic. um, let's talk about your design process a little bit. Yeah, just walk us through kind of how you get inspired and then how you actually like accomplish the work of design and then how you make it real.
Um, Late night in my head, like everything else. I pull a lot from my kids, what they're into, or like in our group, what people are talking about, what I'm seeing in the market. Um, so I'm always looking to see what people are interested, what's going on, and kind of mix that with how I like to see things, which is kind of like a little more simple, but still fun. When we first started, I was like, "Okay, I want everything to be like super, super aesthetic." But I was like, wait, not everybody is like a beige mom. And I was very beige mom back then, not so much anymore. But it's like we have to have something for everybody. So I always try to kind of like look at what people are talking about and stay really up to date. And once like I have an idea in my head, I'm like, okay, I gotta write it all down. And at the time, like we had this really great graphic designer where I'd be like, okay, here's what I'm thinking. And we would sit down and like, I would talk and she would be drawing and it would all come together so well. And like we've obviously had to grow from that. And it's like I write down my ideas. If I have to get like some inspo, I get some inspo. I'm like, I like how the lines are in this. And I don't know like design language or graphic designer language. So I'm like, I like that line and the way that circle is, or I don't know, just like random things. And it's like, just put it together and understand what I'm saying. But yeah, like the process, I've always been very involved and I just want for our stuff to be, do I want it in my house? What will it do for somebody else? Like in their family, will the kids enjoy it? How is the parents gonna like it? And just staying on top of trends and just making it work for our brand. I try to like really stay within our brand at all times, no matter what like what's trending, because I feel like you can really jump onto a trend. It's not gonna work for you. So if I see something that is trending, I'm like, how do I turn it into something that works for us instead? And still have that excitement for the people that are like really into that. And kind of the same way we approach the licensing is we get access to the assets. And I'm like, how strict are you with how we use this and what we do and what colors we're doing? And then just kind of spin that to be us and them. And I will always want to make sure that both brands are represented really strongly and it's not just like one way. But yeah, that is.
Do you have a favorite SKU of yours or like a favorite product?
I would say maybe the arch and armor, just because I love like the way you can turn it into a door or my kids turned it into a coffin. Don't know why. Don't know why we're playing with coffins, but put two together and now they're like, look, it's a coffin. And I'm like, weird, but okay. Or like you can do so many different things within the way they use it and their imagination. I just like really love that piece because it can be used for so many different things. And like, I don't know, we made a cover to put two together to make a portal
Oh,
into another land and things like that. So I really, really do love that. And like, our play couch like is always going to be the hero. This just does so much. But I love the arch and armor. But yeah.
I think one of the things I admire so much about the brand, the business, what you're doing is the beautiful blend of these very functional pieces. Like it's kind of dysfunctional to have a kid jumping all over like a different kind of sofa. And
Yeah.
yes. So there's just some like deeply functional aspects to what you're doing and utilitarian. Like I want my kids to be able to play in a way that is non-destructive and like is safe for them. And then the kind of fanciful
imaginative aspect of it, which is that you're like allowing these pieces of furniture effectively to be like used and moved in a way that, you know, so much furniture is just sort of like, I'm here, this is where I am, I'm here, and I'm gonna sit there.
Yeah.
And yours open up this total world of like play. And I wonder how much that aspect of like functionality versus playfulness kind of like filters its way into the design process too. Do you start with one and then you're like, and how can I make this playful? Or are you like, I want my kids to be, you know, like climbing on top of rainbows instead of burying themselves in coffins? Like, where where do you start? Or is it sort of like a random inspiration?
So with starting with the couch, I was always like, how do I make another piece that works with that couch to make something bigger and a different way for them to really use their imagination? When it like we really start to lose our imagination as we grow up. And it's one thing that I want to make sure like my kids always have the ability to just use their imagination as much as possible. And so it's always what other shapes can we do that work with the play couch, will work with all the other pieces. So like as we've grown, it's like, how do I make them all work together? And that is like, I'll think of a shape of what something that like the wedges, for example, is like, I want a way for them to be able to slide. So what's that going to be? Okay, it's going to be a wedge. What else can the wedge do? So it's just like trying to like figure out how are you going to store it? And that's like one of the things with all the pieces. Like we have something called the Builder Buddy, and that is different size blocks. But those blocks go inside of a cover to make it a base, and it goes underneath your couch. So when you're not playing with it, it's not blocks everywhere. They're not stacked. They can just go neatly underneath. And so I want the pieces, but I always want to figure out how they can work if you're not playing with it. It
Yeah.
always starts with that play aspect and what it's going to do for their imagination, the ways they can use it. But then I'm like, okay, before we do that and release it, I have to make sure when they're building it works with the pieces for the sizing. But I also want to make sure it can do something else in the home that is useful and not just like, you know, thrown around your house. They are pretty large pieces. You
Yeah.
know, the way I think of it is when they're done playing with it and they put it away, can it fit into the mini living room that you have for your kids?
Okay, last couple of questions. You've been so insightful and so generous with your time. You don't have to answer this question, but I'm wondering if you have any like snippets or a tease for what's maybe coming next from your Roo You.
Think not play,
Okay.
not play related.
Okay.
So still for your home, but maybe not for the Joey collection or the system. Something different outside of that.
Oh, I'm so excited. All right. I can't wait to see. Very last question. Where can folks find you individually if they want to engage with you or ask you more questions about the brand? And then also just what can they do to be most helpful to you or to the business's growth?
Or Instagram, probably the two places you'll find me and get a hold of me. Um, Help me. Honestly, I just want people to talk to that can share their experiences and be okay with me asking questions and wanting to help. And I'm all there to help other people. I always say, if you have a question, you're a new founder, you're an existing founder, I don't care who it is. You want to ask me a question, please do. I think like it's the best thing ever to be able to talk to somebody else about something that you know and have somebody else that you can go to and talk to that understands what you're going through. So that's always like my biggest thing and my biggest hope that I think I want people to get from me is that they're okay to just reach out to me and make that connection. And I think that just that would be the most helpful to me.
I love that. Helen's you're my new phone a friend.
Anytime. I love that.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much. Congrats on all the success and growth, and we'll see you on the internet.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Commerce is Chaos. If you're listening, I have a feeling you know just how much good leaving a 5-star review can do for a team. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts and subscribe to Commerce is Chaos wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe to our Substack, also called Commerce is Chaos, for more good stuff and actionable tools to build your business.